There is a moment in life when you finally understand something no one ever taught you. The people who tried to break you never expected you to rise in silence. They expected tears, chaos, anger, even revenge. But what they never saw coming was your ability to walk away as if their existence no longer mattered. And that, more than anything you could ever say, destroys them from the inside out. Because nothing crushes the ego of someone who wanted to hurt you, like realizing that their actions failed to leave a mark on your soul. They wanted you trembling. They wanted to see you unravel. They wanted proof that they had power over your emotions. But the moment you refuse to react, the moment you stop giving them the satisfaction of a response, you send a message so sharp it cuts deeper than any confrontation ever could. You never had power over me. Not then, not now, not ever. Think about it. Think about how unsettling it is for someone when they try to provoke you, pull you into their game, drag you into their drama, and you remain unmoved. When you treat a person who tried to wound you as if they were nothing more than a passing shadow, it unsettles them in ways they will never admit. Your indifference becomes a mirror, one that reflects their failure so clearly it becomes impossible to escape. And that is why the psychology behind silence is so powerful. The Stoics understood this long before the term emotional manipulation even existed. Epictetus warned that it is not the event that harms us, but our reaction to it. Those who wish to control you need your emotional participation. They need your anger to confirm their importance. They need your pain to validate their influence. But when you choose calm over chaos, restraint over retaliation, dignity over drama, you break the entire structure of their power. You don't fight. You don't explain. You don't justify. You simply remove yourself, quietly, gracefully, completely. And suddenly, the person who thought they had conquered you is forced to confront the one truth they feared the most, that you can live without them, thrive without them, exist without remembering them. They wanted to be the center of your suffering. Instead, they become a footnote in your story. That is why indifference wounds deeper than revenge. Revenge still acknowledges the other person. It still tells them, "You matter enough for me to act." But indifference, that is the final erasure. It says, "You were never worth my energy to begin with." Imagine the discomfort of someone who hurt you when they realize you're not looking back. You don't plead. You don't negotiate. You don't perform your pain for them. Your silence becomes a storm inside their mind, because in that silence they hear everything they were trying to avoid. Their own guilt, their own weakness, their own insignificance. And while they wait for your reaction, for the explosion, for the breakdown, you simply keep moving forward. No chaos, no warnings, no explanations. This is the kind of power that cannot be faked, because it comes from a place of self-respect so solid, so uncompromising, that no betrayal can touch it. Marcus Aurelius understood this perfectly when he wrote that the best revenge is not to imitate the one who harmed you. The truest form of victory is becoming someone they can no longer reach, someone whose peace they cannot disturb, someone whose soul is not shaped by the cruelty of others. When someone betrays you, disrespects you, or tries to control your emotions, they expect a scene. They expect tension, accusations, shattered pieces of who you used to be. But when you offer none of that, when you simply let them disappear into the background of your life, their impact dissolves into nothing. Your absence becomes your statement. Your silence becomes your boundary. Your peace becomes your power. And the beauty of this is that it doesn't require hostility. You don't have to become cold or cynical. You don't have to pretend you don't feel pain. Instead, you channel that pain into clarity, clarity that reveals who deserves access to your heart and who never did. The real shock comes when, instead of collapsing, you evolve. When you begin to grow in ways the other person never expected. They left thinking they had damaged you. They acted as if they had won something. And yet, while they remain trapped in their old patterns, you begin building a version of yourself that no attack could ever break. Every step you take forward becomes a silent reminder of their failure. Every moment you smile becomes evidence they couldn't destroy you. Every piece of joy you reclaim becomes a message they can't ignore. And here's the truth: no manipulator ever wants to face. They don't fear your anger. They fear your indifference. Because anger still implies that they matter. Indifference means they don't. When you look at someone who once held a place in your life and feel nothing, that emptiness terrifies them. Not because you're being cruel, but because they finally understand that whatever power they believed they had was nothing more than an illusion. They hoped their betrayal would haunt you. Instead, it only revealed who they truly were and who you refused to be. Contempt, the quiet kind, the one wrapped in peace and self-control, is more devastating than hatred. Hatred is still a connection. Contempt is closure. And the moment you master this kind of emotional discipline, you become untouchable. Truly untouchable. Because no one can manipulate a person who is not dependent on external validation. No one can break someone who chooses wisdom over reaction. No one can control someone who has learned the highest form of strength, to walk away without a trace, without the need to be understood, without the desire to be proven right. This is how you destroy the intentions of someone who tried to hurt you, not through retaliation, but through transcendence. And perhaps the most unsettling truth of all is this: when you walk away without noise, without anger, without announcing your departure, you create a silence that the other person cannot outrun. At first, they may laugh. They may convince themselves that your distance means nothing. They may even celebrate, thinking your quiet is weakness. But time has a way of revealing what pride tries to hide. Because when there is no reaction, no argument, no emotional performance, no plead for closure, there is nothing for them to push against. And that emptiness becomes unbearable. Humans expect resistance when they provoke. It confirms their significance. But when you offer no resistance, when you simply disappear, they are forced to sit with the consequences of their own behavior. And that, more than anything, is what breaks them. The mind begins to wander. Then it questions. Then it analyzes. Then it regrets. What seemed like victory becomes a mental prison. They replay every moment, every word, every action, searching for the reaction you never gave. And because there is nothing, the imagination tortures them far more effectively than any confrontation ever could. Silence gives them too much room to think, and thinking is where their own guilt begins to grow. Seneca warned against arguing with fools because doing so only entangles you in their chaos. The more you try to explain your worth to someone who refuses to see it, the more you diminish it. But when you leave without explaining, without apologizing, without defending, you show that your dignity is not up for negotiation. You show that your worth does not depend on their recognition. It is in this quiet withdrawal that your true power reveals itself. You don't need revenge, because revenge implies dependence. You don't need closure, because closure is something you give yourself. And you don't need their acknowledgement, because their inability to value you is not a reflection of your worth, only of their blindness. And while they sit there, trying to understand why you didn't react, something else begins to happen within you. You start rising. The pain that once felt unbearable begins to transform into fuel. You realize that what they broke was only the version of you that needed their validation, the version of you built on fear, attachment, or illusion, but the version that emerges afterward, the one forged by silence, by self-control, by inner strength. That is the version they can never reach again. Your success becomes the echo of every word you didn't say. Your evolution becomes the proof that their actions never defined you. Your joy becomes the sentence they must carry. And there is nothing more humiliating for someone who wished for your downfall than witnessing your rise. They wanted you shattered. You became sharper. They wanted you begging. You became whole. They wanted you dependent. You became free. Ego cannot digest that kind of outcome. It collapses under the weight of its own failure. And while you move forward, building a life filled with meaning, growth, and peace, they remain stuck in the moment they lost access to you. Because losing access to someone who finally understands their worth is a wound the ego cannot hide. The truth no one tells you is this: the more you grow, the smaller they feel. Not because you seek to diminish them, but because your light reveals the emptiness of their intentions. And that is why your progress, quiet, steady, unstoppable, is the ultimate form of justice. But the most devastating blow, the one that truly leaves them feeling powerless, comes from something even deeper than success. It comes from forgetting. To be hated is still to be remembered. To be resented is still to occupy space. To be fought is still to matter. But to be forgotten? To be erased from someone's emotional landscape? To have no place in their memory? No weight in their heart? No meaning in their future? That is the form of punishment the ego cannot survive. A manipulator does not fear hatred. Hatred keeps the connection alive. But being forgotten, being irrelevant, that is what their ego cannot endure. Your silence becomes not only the boundary, but the burial. It buries their influence. It buries the illusion of their power. It buries the version of you who once tolerated what you never deserved. And when they finally realize that your life is moving forward without them, that your peace does not include them, that your happiness is not tied to them, that is when the truth hits with full force. They never mattered as much as they imagined. Marcus Aurelius said that time is like a river, that if you wait long enough, the consequences of people's actions will eventually drift back to them. You don't need to push. You don't need to force. You don't need to make anything happen. Time reveals. Time exposes. Time restores balance. All you have to do is step out of the game. And when you do, everything changes. Your silence becomes wisdom. Your restraint becomes strength. Your indifference becomes liberation. And the person who tried to hurt you is left alone with the reality they tried to escape. They never had power over someone who is capable of rising without reacting. So do not chase those who harmed you. Do not argue with those who misunderstood you. Do not prove your worth to those who refuse to see it. Walk away with dignity, knowing that your absence is louder than any revenge you could ever plan. Walk away with peace, knowing that healing is not found in fighting, but in releasing. Walk away with certainty, knowing that the people who are meant for your life will never require you to sacrifice your self-respect to earn their love, because the moment you choose yourself, quietly, firmly. Without hesitation, you become someone no betrayal can break. And the one who hurt you, they are left to face the emptiness of their own choices, not because you punished them, but because you outgrew them. That is the quiet victory, the one that requires no noise, no war, no revenge, just evolution, just peace, just you, walking forward, never looking back.